I just want to take you down to, first of all, talk about random sampling methods. Okay, so that's our first important thing to know, is what are random samples. So there are a number of different methods that count as random samples. So the first one I've got here is simple random sampling. And as you can see from the little picture there, it's just literally like taking a list of all the people and chopping it up and putting that into a hat, and then you just draw a person's name out at random. Now, because you have chosen put everybody into the list, that means every single person has has the same chance at being chosen. And that's quite important, okay? So simple random sampling, every member has the same chance of being selected. So that's method number one. The second method is stratified sampling. And so what happens there is we take our entire population and we decide what can we do with that. And I might want to separate that population out into several groups. So for example, I might separate out that into the males and the females. Or I could separate it out into different ethnic groups, different age groups, any kind of thing that depends on what it is that I'm trying to find. So I separate out into these groups, and then once I've got them in these groups, then I take a simple random sample from each of those different strata or different groups. So if I separate it into the males and females, I separate out the males, and then within the males, I take a simple random sample. All right, so that means our population is divided into these groups, and then within each group, we take a sample, and it's usually in my simple random sampling. So that's the second method. My third method that I've got down here is cluster sampling. So the example that I've got there is on the map. So if I'm a person who is going to try and walk door to door and collect data from people nearby, then what I want to know is where am I going to walk? And I'm not going to walk on every single road. What I might do instead is I might just happen to walk down this particular road here. And as I walk down that road, I'm going to happen to sample those houses that are nearby to me, because those are the ones that are close. I might then jump in the car, drive a little bit further, and end up having a look down this road here. Then within that, I'm going to take another sample. So this can often be used when, for example, when we talk about animals. If I go fishing and I find a single fish, they usually don't just come in one or two. Most fish swim in schools of fish. So that means that if I find one fish, I'm likely to find lots of fish. And so then I want to take a sample of fish. As soon as I find them, I'm going to take lots and lots and lots of samples in that same area. So that is what we call cluster sampling. Then the fourth random sampling method is called systematic. So in systematic, what I do with that is I might take a list of people that I'm interested in sampling. So for example, a list of all the students in the class, and then I'm going to choose a random starting point. Okay, so in my list from the class, I might have a bunch of people's names written on that list. What I'm then going to do is I am going to choose a starting point. So I'm going to go random, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and I might start at this student number here. Okay. Then what I do is I choose a second random number, and I might choose a random number 3. And what I then do is I count every third person on the class list after that is going to be in my sample. So I count down 1, 2, 3, and that person number 3 will be on my list. I count down 1, 2, and I haven't got another one, so I'll go back up to the top, and there's 3. So I'm going to sample every third person on my list until I have the number I want. Now, the reason I've separated that and just talked about these random samples is that when I do a random sample, what happens is that I've got my population, I'm taking a sample from that, but within the sample that I am collecting, I should have a mixture of different people, a mixture of different characteristics, a mixture of different objects, whatever it is that I'm sampling. So if I'm sampling people, then I want to have people that are representative. So there's a key word, okay? I want people that are representative of the population. So if they're representative, that means I've got people of both genders. I've got people of different ethnic backgrounds. I've got people of different ages, different hair length, different taste in clothes. Okay, everything about ourselves that make us who we are, we want to have a representative mixture of that within our sample. Because we do not want, what we don't want is we do not want a biased sample. Okay, so that is what we don't want. A biased sample would be one where I might just be lazy and take a sample of the 3 students sitting next to me. They might all happen to be really sporty students, or maybe they all happen to be students that got to school early, but there might be something different about them that's not representative of all students. Okay, so these 4 methods that I've just talked about here, these are all random sampling methods, and so they will give us that representative data. Here are 2 examples of biased sampling methods. Okay, so the first one here is called convenience sampling, and that's what I was just talking about before. I might just randomly choose the 3 people or the 4 people that I happen to be standing next to. And they could think differently. They could have a different opinion. They could have different data to the people that I haven't collected data from. Okay, so that's going to mean that not everybody has the same chance of being selected. Another one is our self-selected sample. And so in a self-selected, that's when we ask for volunteers. So I might say, okay, right, who can go and take the role to the office for me? And people who volunteer, they might happen to be the people that are really fit. Or they might happen to the people that really don't like going to maths class. There might be something different about them that they think or feel or have different types of data than students who don't volunteer. Okay, so that is a biased, those are 2 biased sampling methods, and they aren't going to give us representative data.